What's up, y'all? I just came on here to first give remembrance to my son, whom I lost on this very day 15 years ago at precisely this exact moment. It was one of the worst days of my life. I lost one of the best things that had ever happened to me. And the reason for me coming on here is to not only give my testimony and to be an encouragement to anyone else who has suffered the loss of a child, but also to bring awareness to the grieving process. You know, when I lost my son 15 years ago, I was already an alcoholic. And then when I lost him, I just kind of became more of an alcoholic. I began to drink even more and whatever else I chose to do to numb the pain. And at that time, I didn't think that I was not grieving. I thought I was doing pretty well, because when my son died, I remember telling myself, like, maybe a week after that, I was going to have to make a decision whether I was going to let this situation make me or break me. And so I made the decision to not let it break me, and I said, because I had other children to live for, and I just wanted to be that person who can encourage the next person who had to face such a terrible tragedy. I wanted to be that encouragement for the next person. So I made up in my mind that I wasn't going to let this situation break me. And so I continued on living. I prayed, but I was still drinking and partying, and during that time I was thinking, I thought I was strong. I thought God was doing it for me. And he was, because like I said, I didn't break. I didn't. But I didn't realize then that I wasn't dealing with what I had been through. I wasn't dealing with it. And I didn't even realize that until probably about almost 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I gave my life to God. I stopped drinking, I stopped doing everything, and I gave my life to God. And the anniversary of Kyrie's death, the October 8th, following that year, when I was clean and sober, head clear, let me tell you, you would have thought my son died on that very day. I mean, I was broken. I was broken like I had never been broken before. I don't even think I was that broken when it happened. And, I couldn't get out of bed. I just cried. I hurt so bad. And it was at that moment I realized, all those years when I thought I was just being strong, God don't put more on you than you can bear, thinking I was grieving. I wasn't. I was not. I was actually suppressing and compartmentalizing, as they say, because when I actually got my head clear without the drugs and alcohol, then I was grieving. It hurt. It hurt. And I say that to say that, just to encourage the next person. I know you can't tell the person how to grieve, as they say, and you really can't. But what I can tell you is that it's important to try to do it with a clear head. When you're drinking and doing drugs, it just, like I said, it's suppressed. And while I didn't check out on my kids in life when that happened, I also didn't check in either. I think about, things that I should have done different. Like, I did a couple sessions of counseling, but my daughter was 12 years old. I should have sent her to counseling, so all this while I'm thinking I was handling it, I wasn't. And it was because I was numbing the pain and the hurt with the drugs and the alcohol and whatever else I could get my hands on. And, like I said, when I decided to get sober, and then October 8th came around, or February 12th came around, which is Kyrie's birthday, then I really felt it. I really felt it. I mean, I felt it hard. But when I felt it then, and I went through it, I dealt with it, I actually felt better. That's why it's important not to numb the pain with drugs and alcohol, because you don't get through it. You don't get through it. It's like you're going around it. You're going under it. You're trying to go over it. In those ways, you're not doing nothing. It's just like putting a bandage on something or just prolonging the hurt. Because you never get over it, but you can go through it. And that's why it's so important to any problems in life, whether you lost a child or whatever you're going through, it's important to just face it head on, because that's the only way you're going to actually really deal with it, to be able to overcome it. Because trying to go under it, trying to go around it, it doesn't work. And like I said, you're just prolonging the hurt. And also, mental health is a real thing. It's a real thing. Counseling, very much necessary. Like I said, I did counseling a couple sessions when it happened, and to this day, I still go to counseling, not just because I suffered that loss, but just because I've suffered a lot of losses in my life, not just the loss of a child. I've been through a lot in my life, as so many of us have, and the only way I was able to get through it is with God and a therapist. And we think we're doing, or think we're helping, when we're really hurting. Because when things happen to us, it does not just affect us, especially when you have children. You know how you respond to certain situations have a lasting effect on your children as well. So we need to be mindful when we suffer traumatic losses or any traumatic experience in your life that caused you a lot of hurt and pain. It is very much necessary to seek God. And if you're not a God-fearing person, then to seek therapy. But one thing you should not seek is drugs, alcohol, anything of that nature, because you're not getting through it. What you're doing is numbing the pain and prolonging the hurt. So, yeah, I just wanted to get on here and share my testimony that when I decided to give my life to God and got sober, that's when I really dealt with the hurt and really grieved for my son the right way. And when I did, yeah, I was broken in that moment. But once I cried and hurt and got up off my knees praying, I really actually felt a weight lifted off me like I never felt in the past when it first happened. And I drank myself to oblivion, or I smoked weed until, I ain't gonna say I couldn't remember, because I always remember. But when I sobered up, I still had that heavy burden on me. I still felt like crap, like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. I'm telling you, if you don't take anything else from this, just remember, when you're going through stuff, the best way to go through it is face it head on, you and God. And I can assure you, you'll get through it. You will get through it. And because I know there are so many of us out there who have suffered the loss of a child, I have decided to start a group for parents who have suffered the loss of a child. This is not just for women, or, it's not just for women. This is for anyone who has suffered the loss of a child. I'm going to start a grieving circle for that. So I would like you guys to keep on the lookout for that, because we need to be there for one another so that we can learn how to be there for our children and be encouraging for the next person who has to face such a terrible tragedy, because we weren't the first and we are sure not the last. So yeah, keep an eye out on that. Thanks for listening to me and be blessed.